Hey guys, I wanted to make a video about sort of the way that some people view atheism. And when I talk to people, a lot of the time, when they don't understand atheism, they connect it with this sort of this personal event that they sort of assume happened in the atheist life that made them an atheist, that like turned them away from God for good, and really it's just that experience that sort of emotionally separated them from God. And obviously that's not the case with most atheists, I think. At least most atheists that choose to be atheists, aside from just being, born and then not introduced to a religion. But I wanted to talk about how atheism is perceived as having something personal against God, because uh, there are other ideas out there, like, supernatural uh, ideas, other gods, and there are other ideas like racism or the idea that homeopathy works. And what I wanted to address is that I call myself an atheist because it actually means something in the society that I'm in. If 85, 90% of the people in my society didn't believe in God, I wouldn't have to identify as an atheist. I would just be a person. Like, that would just be the, default position. But seeing as I'm less than 20% of the population, it's useful now to identify as taking the negative stance on an issue. But I only go by that title, like I said, because I'm a minority. Um, And I think it's important to note that I don't call myself a not racist or an anti-geocentrist. And what I wanted to talk about is how there are all these competing ideas. There are all these ideas out there that some people believe in and some people don't. And ideas that some people accept and some don't. That are, I think, on par with believing in God. And, well, maybe not evidence-based, but for example, I um, I would be a non-racist if I had to be. If, for example, 85% of America was racist, I would gladly identify as a non-racist. Um, but as it relates to those topics, there's nothing personal that happened to me. Like, I wasn't like discriminated against or forced to work in fields against my will or do other things associated with slavery. It's just that they don't make any sense. They're not logically sound. So it's not that I've had this personal experience with God. God failed me when I needed Him most. Nothing like that. It's just that these ideas don't make sense. For example, I would be a racist, but it doesn't make sense to be one. I've not been convinced by a single racist argument thus far. Now, if he or she comes up with an excellent argument, I'll consider it. It's not that I'm vehemently opposed to anything that contradicts what I already accept about the world. It's just that I've changed my mind on evidence. So if someone could come up with a really, really good reason that racism is an acceptable practice, then perhaps I'll be a racist. The same thing goes for geocentrism. That'll be a lot tougher. A warning from general physics and everything else that we know. But if, a year from now, it turns out that, wow, the Earth is the center of the universe, there's a ridiculous amount of evidence that's just uncovered from like a new field of science, boom, I'm a geocentrist. But as of yet, it doesn't make any sense to be one. So obviously I don't identify as that. I think most of my viewers, if not all of them, are not geocentrists. So you'll understand where I'm coming from on that one. Same with flat earthers. Now, I don't know if this is actually still believed, but there is the Flat Earth Society, which you can find their webpage, I think. And the same thing goes for that. If there was evidence for that, if you could show me verifiable observable, repeatable evidence that's valid and accurate, heck, I'll be a flat earther. The earth is flat then. And I'll be forced to accept that because that's the way the world works. The same thing goes for classic biblical creationism. If there was evidence for it, I would be a biblical creationist. And it's nothing even against God or against religions or even against that idea, the idea of the world being created. It's just that there isn't any evidence for it. And in fact, there's mountains of evidence to contradict claims like that. So really, all I'm saying is that show me the evidence and I'll consider it and possibly accept it based on the other side evidence and collaborating materials. The same thing goes for homeopathy. This is obviously demonstrably false, but that's only because of evidence. And so if you can show me how homeopathy actually works and prove it to me with repeated studies or observable phenomenon, then I will accept homeopathy. Same thing goes for ancient aliens. A lot of people find this idea ridiculous. Some people find it fascinating, and even fewer amount of people believe that it actually is true. And it is a really cool idea. I really wanted to believe in ancient aliens, but the evidence just isn't there. It's trying very hard to be there and to be valid, but it's really not. And so the same thing goes for that. If there was evidence for it, heck, I for one would love to believe that there were aliens that visited Earth and helped out human civilization for thousands of years before modern technology. That would be super awesome. But it's just unfortunately not the case in actual history. Dowsing works the same way. I have friends who attest to the ability of dowsing, and maybe they're right. But to me, the idea sounds kind of silly just hearing it. But if they can show me evidence of it actually working and it's verifiable and observable, then heck, it might be acceptable. I admit my ignorance on this subject, but until I see evidence of this, of dowsing's veracity, of its ability to actually find water or oil or whatever it is you want to do dowsing for, I don't accept it as a viable instrument to uncover the mysteries of the universe. I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence for it yet. And then there's, like ancient aliens, there's just ideas about aliens in general, where aliens have been to the Earth and like crash landed or stopped by and said hi to the governments. See them in the sky, UFOs. With subjects like these, there's a lot of just common sense that would kind of argue against the fact that aliens exist and are visiting the Earth intelligently with spacecraft. Like, they were technologically advanced enough to travel tens, maybe hundreds or thousands of light years, which is like 5 trillion miles, and survive the trip with their spaceship. But then, despite all the technological advances that would be necessary for that to happen, they don't know how not to crash into a New Mexico desert or not be seen by people that obviously they are hundreds of years ahead of technologically. It just doesn't make sense. And while the material is different for each of these examples, the idea is the same, is that there just isn't evidence for these, or I would accept them, or I haven't seen evidence for them, and maybe someone needs to show me evidence for them. And if I find it convincing, there we go. I can't fight what reality is, which a lot of people in religions worldwide are pretty successfully fighting that. People who just want want to believe things because they make them feel good, or because they provide security, or they need it for emotional support in their lives, and that's I can understand that. But for me, it's all about the facts, and I think for a lot of people, it's about the facts. So there we go. Evidence, and then possible acceptance of the evidence leads to accepting things like evolution or the Big Bang Theory. Like these are actually supported by evidence, which is why, however crazy they may seem to people, like the Big Bang Theory seems kind of crazy to me. So does evolution. It seems ridiculous that that should be the way that the universe is, but it is in fact that way, and I accept that that's how it works because of the evidence, because it's overwhelming. And so, yeah, there you go.